There's no bigger game of networking than sales. I think you'll agree.
Oh my goodness. This is another thing I learned in sales. You're, so frustrated with the outcome. You keep thinking, well, I'm not making any sales, i.e., I'm not landing in networking meetings. Well, okay, well, that's for you to have, at the bottom of the funnel, to have sales or to have
Offers.
networking meetings, you need to have what? Full top of the funnel.
Right.
So how much are you actually putting in at the top of the funnel?
Yeah.
So that's the number one question that I ask when, let's say one of my students would say, I'm networking and it's not working. And networking is not working. And I would tell them, okay, well, how long have you been networking proactively? They would say 5 days. And then I would tell them, okay, well, how many people have you reached out? 3. Like, well, here's your answer.
Exactly.
That's just not enough time to see the results, because oftentimes you get a response from someone a couple of weeks later, a month later.
Yeah.
A, and B, 3 people is just a very, very, very small sample
number.
size.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I always say that 10%, and that's what I'm seeing with my clients, 10% conversion rate. So out of the 10 people that you reach out to, 1 meeting is a really good kind of number to keep in mind. Again, it depends on a lot of factors.
Yeah,
it depends on your industry. So for example, I have a client right now who is she's switching industries from consumer goods, and she wants to go into luxury and fashion. And it took her a few weeks of networking really hard to start landing meetings, because there are industry like the fashion industry where it's just harder. It's just harder to get people to respond. Thank you. So it depends on the industry. It depends on your starting point. So there are a lot of factors that go into it, but 3 is just not enough realistically. Yeah. When you reach out to 33 and no one responds to you, okay, well, that's when let's start looking at, okay, is it your industry specifically that people are not active on LinkedIn? Is it your messaging? Is it that, okay, maybe they're not active on LinkedIn and we should try email instead? But 3 is just not enough.
Yeah. And that's why I tell my clients, whenever I get a message like, oh, networking's not working, and I'm like, can I see the tracker? Can I see how many people? Can I see who you messaged? Like, oh, we're updating it. I'm like, yeah, right. Like, update, and then we can have a chat, because usually you just didn't do it enough and you didn't track it enough, because it's the same thing. We track leads. If we don't track leads, we're not going to have sales. It's the same thing. You have to track this stuff, especially when you're actively looking, and then later you can start to switch as well.